Hi, welcome to You, Me and Mediumship. I'm going to base tonight's video on some of the myths that surround darkness, evil spirits, where they link in with the mediumship side of things. So here goes. Hope you enjoy it. There obviously has been a lot of myths attached to mediumship regarding dark energies, evil spirits and things like that. I've worked with spirit for quite a few years and I've never ever come across anything that I would class as dark or evil. My belief really, well, my understanding and my experience tells me that if somebody is miserable here, then the chances are, on the initial passing over, that they will be miserable and up to no good on the other side as well. The reason I say that is because the personality passes with spirit. So as medium, and I'm sure many of the mediums watching this are aware, the personality comes through quite strong. It comes through to the point where you actually start sometimes even speaking like the past person, or some of the actions that the past person used to do, you actually take on and start acting out. And so the personality side of an energy, of a spirit, is quite strong. So if they're down in the dumps, if they're generally naturally miserable, if they naturally enjoy getting up to no good, the chances are when they come through to us, or in the case of, say, visitation, then they are very likely to do exactly the same as what they would have done whilst in the body. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to argue against that and say that they've experienced darkness, they've experienced dark evil spirits, and they've been hurt by them, they've experienced scratches and being hit and those type of things. I'm not doubting what these people say. I just think that sometimes the power of the mind has an awful lot to play in when these things happen. I'm not doubting they happen, but I think sometimes we need to look at the power of the mind itself, what your own mind can create. So, I mean, I have in the past done, I'm just trying to think, you put it ghost hunting if you like, and been part of a couple of groups. And even then, although I've seen mischief played out in front of my eyes, I've not seen anything that I would class as dark or evil. So as mediums, our aim is to work in love and light. That is what we do. We work in love and light. We do not reach out to any dark spheres, if you like. We do not work within that atmosphere. And it's an understanding between yourself as a medium and spirit that anything that you're not happy with, they will help you and take away that particular energy. I've not had any inclination whatsoever from spirit that has ever happened where they've had to step in and take an energy away from me. That has not happened. And on quite a number of ghost hunts that I've done, paranormal investigations that I've done, houses that I've visited, I've never ever come across anything that I couldn't cope with or I couldn't handle. The closest probably that I've ever been was on an investigation that I went on where the energy, what I would class, was heavy. It was a male energy that had a story to tell, a male energy that had a story to tell about his father and the cover up behind his father's passing. And obviously he was not happy, he was upset, very sad that everybody believed his father passed in a certain way when in fact it was the complete opposite, to be honest. And I knew that this energy was going to be drawing close to me even before I arrived at the building. So I knew of him, and I knew whereabouts in that building I would come across him, where he would meet up, if you like. Even though I had no idea where I was going, I could see on the journey as I travelled to the building, I could see the place in my mind's eye where we would meet. And sure enough, well, funny enough, it was right at the end. And throughout the evening, I was beginning to doubt whether I'd in fact made this up in my own mind, because it just wasn't happening. And right at the very end, I was led to the area where in my mind's eye I had seen it before. So I knew exactly the layout of that particular room, and the minute I walked in there, I knew that I would encounter this quite upset lad. The way I dealt with that was, obviously I just went off on my own for a few minutes and just asked him what the problem was. I asked him not to come in so close, not to cause me any upset, not to cause me any grief. I was more than happy to listen to what he had to say, but it had to be on those terms. And as mediums, you are in control, not spirit. You respect spirit and they respect you. They will not do anything that you're not happy with. So, you know, when you see energies or people that perceive energies as being dark, who say they're being hurt, who say they're being possessed, then for me, and obviously again, people won't always agree with this, but for me, you are in control whether you let that energy in or not. So in a way, it's your fault. Sorry to have said that in such a blunt manner, but it is your fault. If you work close enough with spirit, long enough with spirit, respect spirit, then they will protect you no matter what. I haven't ever, throughout the years of doing mediumship, apart from when someone else has run a circle and I respect their wishes, I have never opened up, I've never asked for protection, and I've never closed myself down at the end of an evening. I've never done that. I don't believe that's necessary. And again, I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments telling me off for that one. The reason I say that, now, if somebody wishes to do that, then I totally respect that wish. If they feel safer, feel happier by protecting themselves, asking spirit for protection, then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. If that makes the medium, him or herself, feel better by doing that, feel more secure, if you like, by doing that, then obviously I totally respect that. For me, I've never had to do that. I put the trust into the energies that work with me. I trust them totally. And like I said, I've never, ever experienced anything dark, evil at all. So if an energy decides to move something on a table, shut a door, then fine by me. You know, that is just an ordinary, natural thing that we would do whilst in the body. We all shut doors, we all move things around, and there's no reason whatsoever why spirit wouldn't do the same. So that's, to me, is not dark or evil at all. Obviously, it's just a natural occurrence. If there is an energy within a building, within a room, if you like, that energy's past is being played out. That's another video I did talking about the difference between spirits and ghosts. So if you watch that, you'll probably understand better what I'm trying to explain. But if a part of history is being played out within a room, then things could move. It is possible for things to move. It doesn't always happen, and it doesn't need to happen. The amount of energy that it takes for a spirit to be able to move an object is way beyond our comprehension. Okay? it is vast. It is something that is very, very difficult for spirit to do, to be able to move something. So it's not something that all spirits do easily. It's not something that we all see very often. Even as mediums, we don't see that very often. I've seen lights turn on, I've heard doors shut, I've heard footsteps, I've seen things move across a circle whilst we're sitting in a circle. I've seen those things happen, and for me, I think you need to class that as an honour, in a sense, to be able to have experienced that, because like I said, the energy needed to be able to move something is vast. It's well beyond anything we can imagine. So obviously there are myths that mediumship is an evil practice. That's mainly down to a number of religions that stated that. For me, it's the exact opposite to that. To me, it is a beautiful thing. It's a pleasure to be able to give messages from the other side. And there is a lot of truth also in questioning spirit. We do need to question spirit. I always question spirit. I don't always take what I'm given straight away and repeat it off the cuff. If I'm not, especially if the message is not clear or the energy is having problems communicating with me, I will question spirit. And there are a number of things you can do to question spirit. Lots of things you can do to question spirit. If you're a bit unsure of who you are communicating with, and you have a sitter in front of you, you could, in your mind's eye, you get a vision, you get a sense of their personality, of who they are. You can then pass that over to the sitter. So in a way, it's kind of like questioning spirit. Now, if the description, if the personality does not fit with who they say, then you need to go back and say that in your own mind. Say, no, are you who you say you are? Because yes, spirits do play. They do play, and that's for sure. And sometimes they have a great sense of humour. If they were a funny person here and had a great sense of humour whilst on the earth plane, then there's no reason whatsoever they haven't still got it whilst in spirit. And they make you laugh. Sometimes some of the statements they make do make you laugh. But it's important that you do question. And question in spirit, for me, is not necessarily always to check and double check their identity. It's to build that line of communication and make it stronger. If you just say, for argument's sake, I've given a demonstration of mediumship, and you just stand there like a plank expecting to be given the information and not communicate with the energy that's with you, then you're going to make your own life very, very difficult, and the actual line of communication itself will be weak. So it's important that you question, that you get that communication line open as best you can by questioning all the time, by joining in the conversation with that energy. And if they say, for argument's sake, you just hear one word, say for argument's sake you hear the word lorry, there's just no point whatsoever really in saying to your sitter, lorry. No point whatsoever. So throw lorry back if you like. Throw that word back. So what do you mean by lorry? Did you drive a lorry? Did you work on a lorry? Get a line of communication running so that it builds and they come in closer to you, closer into your energy. I always say, talk to spirit the same as what you would talk to somebody on this plane. At the end of the day, the only difference between you and the energy that you're talking to is the body. That's the only difference. So there's no reason whatsoever why you shouldn't talk to energies any differently to what you talk to somebody on the earth plane. and you can get that conversation going, and then the information you get, the evidence you get from that energy, you then pass that over to the sitter, and it becomes a great reading. So don't expect to stand there like a lemon and be given all the information you need if you're not going to communicate. So it's just as important for you to communicate as what it is for the energy, the spirit, to communicate to you. Anyway, back to this darkness. Went off track a bit. So there's no reason whatsoever, and I have heard it, not very often, but I have heard it where people with some great ability have been frightened of who they might attract or who they might take home with them after doing investigations. Who, if they got quite a nasty energy with them whilst doing a reading, are they going to take the energy home with them? Are they going to make them unhappy? If you work with the energies that help you and guide you every day of the week, if you work with those spirit energies, those guides, as often as you can, and you build up that rapport with them, you will understand that that is not going to happen. They are there for your protection and to help you in the job that you do as a medium. You are not going to take anything home. You are not going to experience or be possessed by some evil spirit. It won't happen. It's never happened to me. I can't say I'm lucky that it hasn't ever happened to me. That's not, luck doesn't come into it. What does come into it is your trust in the spirits that you work with the guides that you work with. There is no darkness in mediumship whatsoever. I've been to some right haunted, if you like, places, and I'd be quite happy to stay in them on my own, on the understanding nobody plays any tricks, of course, but I'd be quite happy to, because it don't exist. Okay, for me, the darker side of our journey as a spirit and as an energy is whilst we're here. This is probably, sometimes can be the darker side of things for us. And then of course that's how we perceive things, isn't it? So maybe what's dark to one person is not necessarily that dark to another person. So our whole perception of things is important too. So I'm going to close. I might do another one along these lines, another video along these lines at some point. But please don't, if you're an up-and-coming medium, don't be scared, don't be frightened, because it isn't going to happen to you. I've not ever seen it. I know people who would sit down right now in front of me and scream and shout. I know people that say they've experienced this, that and the other, but you need to put it in some sort of perspective. So there are humans, I say humans, there are people who, whilst in the body, would throw a glass across a room. So there's no reason not to believe that there isn't a spirit that would throw a glass across a room. So if we put it into some sort of category of a human being whilst in the body acts no differently to an angry energy, an angry spirit. We are the same, apart from, like I said, the body. So whatever we do here, there's no reason whatsoever that spirit wouldn't do it there, if you like. So the things we watch on TV of chairs being pulled out from under a table, it, for me, is not dark and evil, even though they're made out to be. A lot of times it's classed as poltergeist activity. There are people who throw a wobbly whilst in the body and throw things out of cupboards and slam cupboard doors. There are people that do that. So if you imagine maybe a very upset, angry spirit may well open a cupboard and throw some bits and pieces across the floor. That may well happen. Okay, I don't believe that they will come or they do things like that to harm you. A lot of times, and it's happened where I've gone into different buildings, houses, sometimes a lot of it is caused because they're not being spoken to or acknowledged, rather, if you like. So you find sometimes it starts off with just a small thing moving across a worktop, or a little breath of air on the back of somebody's neck, and just a little blow in the ear, things like that, just small things. And then and it's understandable, if it frightens people, because they're not acknowledged, then they try and do a little bit more to get that acknowledgement. And sometimes they need answers to questions, just like we do. So it's that line of communication. There's, like I said, the darker side of things that people go on about normally are just energies that are upset, frightened, afraid, have got a story to tell. So, in a sense, for me, when I come across something like that, it's just getting that line of communication open with them. And once you get that line of communication open with them, you can then find out what's wrong, why they are acting in such a nasty way sometimes. And just by listening to the energy, by acknowledging the problem, if you like, the fear that they have, if you acknowledge that, you can help them. And there's an awful lot you can do to help them. And the number of times when you can walk into a building and help an energy, that energy will then rest. So please don't believe in all that. Maybe too much TV, I'm not sure. Maybe it's too much television that causes a lot of people to think that what we do can be nasty, can be evil. And it's the exact opposite. We only work in love and light, full stop. We go nowhere else. We reach out to anywhere else. We don't work in that atmosphere. Our jobs would be impossible if we ever did that. It wouldn't be a job anybody would want to do. The love that comes through from spirit is something else. Okay? And it's a wonderful job. So enjoy your work. Don't be put off by any of the stories that you hear. And a lot of people say you've got to see things before you believe things, and that's totally true. I haven't seen it yet, so maybe that's why I don't believe in it. But I'm sure you won't see it either. So take care. Please, you can follow me on Facebook, You, Me and Mediumship. Like the video. Any comments below are welcome. And have a good evening. Good night.